paper route when I was 12 years old. Had my first job at 9. There are 7 very distinct growth stages, developmental stages that every company encounters. And so the first one is what we call strategic planning. I made plenty, and I wish I didn't make some of them, but one of the mistakes I made was when I started to outsell, when the guarantee program started to outsell the standard program, what I didn't realize was I had 2 businesses under the same roof.
And that's next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. So, the big question is this: how are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough, use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams? Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. If you like this video, do not forget to hit that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button and give us your feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we will be talking with Carl Gould. Carl has built 3 multi-million-dollar businesses before the age of 40. He has mentored the launch of over 5,000 businesses, and he has trained and certified over 7,000 business coaches in 35 countries. Carl has written 3 best-selling books on business strategy and growth, and his clients range from Fortune 500 companies to small to mid-market businesses. Carl regularly appears on home improvement reality TV show This House Too, and each week he co-hosts a podcast called Quit and Get Rich on iHeartRadio. Welcome, Carl. We are excited to have you here and learn all about your experiences and how you grow business.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to meet with your audience.
Awesome, great. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your experience, and how did you start your entrepreneurial journey so that we can get to know you better?
Sure. So I was born and raised in New Jersey, and had my first business, which was a paper route, when I was 12 years old. Had my first job at 9, and then I went to college. I went to the University of Delaware to study accounting and finance, and I had to leave school after my second year due to a leg injury. And after 6 months of healing my leg and rehabilitating it and getting to learn how to walk again, I was paying my way through school, so I couldn't afford to go back right away. So I started my first company, which was a landscaping business. I had done landscaping in high school, so I knew it. I knew how it worked. And so I started my first company. It was kind of by accident, literally, but it worked out really well. And I went back to school nights while I had my company. And I had that business from 1985 through, 1986 through 1992.
Okay.
Then I sold that company. I had another knee surgery coming up, so I had a surgery in the mid-90s, and I started a construction company. Cool. I grew that business from scratch. But, I know this is bootstrapping, so I bootstrapped both companies and eventually sold that business in 2004.
That's amazing.
But the company I have today, I started in 2002.
Cool. And what's your current company about?
Pardon me?
What is your current company all about?
My current company is it's called 7 Stage Advisors, and it's a coaching and consulting firm. We are known as a growth advisory, and we help small to mid-market companies create their plan, set their pricing, refine their go-to-market strategy, and then ultimately create sustainable results. We tend to work with companies that are growth-minded and looking to expand. So that's been our focus over the last 17 years.
That's great. So let's go back to the early days, and when you met this unfortunate situation of having an injury. In that moment, like, how did you get enough courage to think about launching your own business, and what was that experience like?
Well, the first thing that happened that made me realize I had to get serious about whatever I earned money at was I was paying my own way through school, and I had taken out student loans, and I had a couple of scholarships, and I had gotten some grant money to go to school. And by my second year, I had the grants and scholarships I had already used up, and then if I was going to stay in school anyway, I was going to have to earn more money. But once I got hurt and I took 6 months away from school, all of those loans came due. Everybody needed to get paid back. And I realized it became very obvious I was not going back to that college. And, and this was it. I had to figure it out at this point. So I was literally at home broke, and I was just looking at my options. Do I get a job? What do I do? And I had, when I was with the landscaping company in my last year there, and when I was in high school, my boss used to send me out to present the proposals. Happened by chance one day, he said, "Oh, I'm jammed up. Can you go bring this proposal down to Mr. and Mrs. Smith?" I did, and when I came back, he said to me, "What happened?" I said, "Well, they said yes." And he said, "Well, they said yes to what?"
Mm-hmm.
So, "What do you mean to what?" I said, "All of it."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "All of it?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well," I said, "Why do you sound so surprised?" He said, "Because there was 3 phases to that project. 2 of them were optional. How did you convince them to do the other 2?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, I just told them that they'd be foolish not to do the other 2 if they're doing the first one. It seems silly not to." They agreed and they did it. Well, the owner liked that. And so he used to send me out on proposals more and more. And so what started to happen was I started to realize, well, wait a minute, I'm doing the proposals, and then as soon as we get the project, he's sending me to do it. So I had a lot of confidence that I could probably do this on my own, because I was basically doing it on my own anyway.
Cool. That's great. So the moral of the story is get to know a business very well from inside out, and then it's easy to launch your own business. Is that correct?
Well, definitely. But from the owner's side, the lesson there should have been, he should have cut me in on the profits. He should have said, "Hey, you're doing the selling. I'm going to give you a commission. Hey, you're running the projects. I'm going to give you a bonus if it comes in on time or under budget." If he had done that, I probably wouldn't be looking to own my own business. I probably would have went back to him and said, "Wow, I was making good money. I should do that again."
Yeah.
But because I was making like $6 an hour, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing everything. And I collected the checks, so I knew how much money he was bringing in. I know how much he was getting and how much I was getting. And it was so unfair. I said, well, can't be all that hard to learn what this guy knows. And
Yeah.
so I went out on my own. But yeah, knowing the business from start to finish, all the way to every aspect of it, it sure did help me understand how to launch my own, for sure. No question about it.
Yeah, that's good advice. Now, you said you bootstrapped the first business and the second business. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did bootstrapping, a lot of people misunderstand. They think that bootstrapping means starting something from nothing, and, there's no investment needed, no time needed, and, it magically just happens. But what was your experience like? You had to come up with some resources, maybe some equipment. How did you arrange all that?
Yeah, it's a good point. I look at bootstrapping as basically not taking on partners or not giving away equity when I don't have to. So yeah, in the beginning, I had a personal loan from a friend, from a family member, who loaned me some money to get the equipment that I needed, and but I very early on just put my name out there as somebody who was doing that work. I got a couple of projects. I asked for referrals. I said, do you know anyone else who could utilize my services? And not everybody did, but some people had introductions that they could make, which was terrific, and that really helped me launch. And then I just stayed really aggressive. I was doing proposals at breakfast, at lunch, after work, on the weekends, and I was trying to fill my calendar as fast as possible. And I went about it very, very aggressively.
Cool. All right. And your early experience in sales and marketing helped you along, right? Now,
well, I gotta tell you, I was a bit of a bull in a china shop when it came to marketing. I can't say that was my skill. My skill was probably more in the area of selling. I understood what I was doing. I understood I had a real quality product, and then I had learned well. The people that I worked for prior really taught me well, and I knew that I was doing a quality product. So in the beginning, I was very good one-on-one. Like we call it the kitchen table sale. I was really good at the kitchen table sale because I was able to, convince mom and dad or the owner of the building, if it was a commercial building, that I was the right choice. And then as I learned what words and what phrases worked well and which ones didn't work well, then that helped me out on the marketing side of things.
Okay, I see. Now, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, especially when they're launching a new company, new product or service, is pricing of their service or product. So how did you price your services? Like, did you charge a premium than the going rate, or how did you make those decisions?
Yeah, of all the things that I think I may have done well, I think I nailed the pricing well. I was in a position, an unfortunate position, where I couldn't afford to discount. I couldn't afford to do it cheap. I had to make a certain amount of money, period. That was just it. Mm-hmm. So I was lucky in that regard, because what it taught me was that you don't have to discount your way to market share. You can charge what you're worth no matter how early in business you are, and you can charge a premium. Well, in the first year, I charged what I thought were fair, but good prices. And then I kept hearing people have some similar requests. Some people wanted me to move them up in the schedule. Some people had time pressure. Some people needed certain things. So what I did was I took all the complaints and the major objections that I was hearing, and I created a second option for every proposal. So I gave everybody the option. You got the regular standard scope of work proposal, and then we had something called the guarantee. And I took the top 5 complaints that I had heard throughout the course of the year, and I promised that those things would not happen to you as my client if you hired me for this special guarantee program, which was 35% more expensive for the same project. But I guaranteed I would start on time. I guaranteed I would finish on time. I guaranteed all the materials, everything. I was responsive with phone calls, the whole bit.
Nice.
And what started to happen was people were choosing the guarantee option 2-to-1 over the regular one. So I was selling 2/3 of every 2 out of every 3 proposals that I won were for my guarantee option. And I realized that, I was a 19-year-old kid, and yet people were paying a 35% premium for someone they didn't know because I was answering their objections. Yeah. So I learned from a very early age in my career that you can discount if you want. If sometimes that's appropriate, but you don't always have to. You rarely have to.
Yeah, that's a brilliant strategy, and I'm glad you worked out. It worked out for you, and I'm sure a lot of people will learn from this and apply it in their businesses. and I hope it works out for them as well. Now, let's talk about some of the mistakes you made. So, did you make any, first of all? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I made plenty, and I wish I didn't make some of them. But the one of the mistakes I made was when I started to outsell, when the guarantee program started to outsell the standard program.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize was I had two businesses under the same roof, and two totally different sets of clientele. So what I should have done back then was I should have kept both businesses, even if it meant opening one over under a different name. But I just stopped offering the standard offering, which was a mistake because I was getting very good clientele, and they were profitable, and they were flexible, meaning I could start and finish the project when I wanted to, and I didn't realize how much of a gift that was at the time. So I really should have stuck with that. And so that was, I would call that one of my bigger mistakes when I started.
I see. All right. So the moral is basically if you're running a division or an aspect of the business which is paying well and is sustainable, there's no need to get rid of it. I mean, basically, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right?
Right. Well, yeah. What the marketplace was telling me was that they were paying me for two distinct services, and I should have grown both services as opposed to saying, oh, well, they like this one more than the other, so I'll shut down the one that they're not buying as much. Yeah. So what I should have done was, when the marketplace is buying from you and you're profitable and the pipeline's full, you look to grow it. You don't look to, you don't look to get rid of it. Yeah. I mean, you could sell it, but you don't look to shut it down.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So now let's talk about your current consulting. You help people, help businesses grow. And from one of the books that I read that you've written, you went through several stages of growth for small business. So can you walk us through those stages of business growth?
Sure. What we've learned over the years of working with tens of thousands of companies now is that there's a clear pattern to success. And if you follow that pattern, you're likely to replicate the results. And so we found that there are 7 very distinct growth stages, developmental stages that every company encounters. And so the first one is what we call strategic planning. That's stage 1. And the implication there is that you have a compelling and inspiring mission, vision, values, and purpose. To the extent that an employee would be willing to work for you for less, and a customer would be willing to buy from you and pay more.
Carl, I think the line is not clear. Can you repeat the answer? You were dropping off.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Well,
no, it's okay.
What I was saying is, yep, that's okay. So what I was saying is that in stage 1, your strategic plan has to be compelling and inspiring, meaning how you do what you do and why you're in business. The how and the why must be so compelling that a buyer would be willing to switch from wherever they buy from now and be willing to pay you more to purchase from you. That's number 1. Number 2 would be what you're so compelling and inspiring in how you operate and why you are in business that employees would seek you out and want to work for you, even if that meant earning less than where they are now. Mm-hmm. And if you can answer yes to both of those, you likely have a very compelling and inspiring business.
Cool. All right. And yeah, please go ahead. Are you going to describe the other stages as well?
Sure, I can walk you right through them. So stage 2 is what we call the specialty stage, and that's when we say an expert is born. You're a specialist. And the implication here is that you've become a thought leader and an authority in your niche. Mm-hmm. Stage 3 is what we call synergy. And if you follow the progression here, stage 1, you've created a compelling vision. Stage 2, you are now an expert in your field. Stage 3 is you are now hiring, you're so busy, you are hiring a team and surrounding yourself with the right implementation team so you can duplicate your efforts.
Cool.
At stage 4, that's the systems stage, and that's where you decide ultimately what kind of business are you going to become. Are you going to be a distributorship or a dealership or a single bricks and mortar location or a virtual company? Or are you going to be an open source license company like Microsoft, or are you going to be a closed wall ecosystem like Apple, right? So you decide what you're going to be when you grow up, and you begin documenting and systematizing everything in the business. Then you hit stage 5. At stage 5, this is the scalability stage, where we say you're ultimately sustainable because the systems have taken over, and you are known for something other than your product or your service. So, for example, Starbucks is known for its convenience and its ambiance and being the third home. McDonald's is also for, certainty about its menu and hot, good tasting food, at a value price. So, and you're known for that beyond just what your core product or service is. Okay? Then there's stage 6, which we call saleability, and that's where you maximize the saleability of your company. And we say an asset is born because you have a management team in place, and you have maximized the saleability of the company. And then stage 7 is succession. And that's where a legacy business is born. Okay, you are cash flow positive, you have a strong management team, your clients are happy, and your business is ready to be transitioned to the next generation. So you can pass it along, you can sell it, you can keep it and let your managers buy in. It's where you're simply transitioning to the next. You're simply transitioning to the next generation.
That's great. Thank you for that comprehensive walkthrough. Now, is there any one step which is essential for the growth, or they're all important in succession?
I'm sorry, pardon me. Could you say that again?
So are these steps like a growing business needs to go through all these steps, or if they were pressed for time or resources, will you emphasize on one particular stage or step that they must go through to be a high growth business?
Yeah. So the funny thing about, or the unique thing about this, is that you cannot skip a stage. You have to do each stage in sequence, and that's the thing that we've learned about growth over the years is growth is a sequential game. You have to go in a specific order, and if you get out of that sequence, you can be severely punished because your growth will slow down. So in other words, you can do the right things at the wrong time and not get the result. You've got to be doing the right things, but in the right sequence. That's the key.
Cool. That's great. And the reason why I asked the question is because, I work with a lot of tech entrepreneurs, and this concept of building a unicorn company, which is, worth $1 billion, that's all people talk about. And they forget to, look at these stages that every business goes through. I mean, many people call it with different names, but, there's a method to the madness. So that's why I asked that question to clarify. So thanks a lot. Now, you talk about another concept of winter in your business. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What is winter in your business, and how do you survive it?
Great question. So there are 4 seasons in business, and there's a spring and a summer and a fall and a winter. And winter, so every 20 to 25 years, we go through these different seasons. And what you by understanding where the seasons are, you can adjust your business accordingly. Well, we are in the winter season right now, because there's a certain demographic that is going into their prime saving years. That's the baby boomers, and as a result, it's created a very volatile economy, which we will be in for at least till 2029. And during winter, you just have to understand it. As long as you understand winter, then you're fine, you know. But it is a time where if you're, where the markets are correcting, real estate corrects, and assets are not as valuable as they used to be, and access to assets is more important than ownership of assets. So you might notice Airbnb, and I don't need to own a car because I could take an Uber, right? So assets decrease in value, and that throws the markets in turmoil, and they have to recalibrate. So you have to be very strategic during winter, because it's a time that if you don't have your systems in place and you don't understand your pricing, you don't know who your customer is, you could be out of business very quickly. Just look at retail. Retail is never adjusted. They've never figured it out, you know. But a good example would be Apple. Apple has all of its Apple stores. If you go through a mall, the mall is a ghost town, but you walk into the Apple store and it's packed. Because they understand retail. Whole Foods understands retail. There are companies that understand it and do it well. Walmart, Target. These are good stores that understand retail. But Kmart, Target made a big mistake in Canada. Their entry into Canada was a disaster, which is unfortunate. I talked about that on morning TV in Montreal. That was unfortunate, the way Target kind of blew that up when they came in. They looked like they had a good plan, but then they blew it. But these are companies that essentially do understand retail. And when they screwed it up, their entry back into Canada will be very unlikely. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, every business goes through these cycles, and as you put it, if you understand it and have enough information, it's much easier to get through with it. So thanks a lot for that. Now, one of the aspects that you use to make a company, grow faster or even weather the storm through winter is by cutting costs. So can you tell us some good recipes on how you cut costs in companies?
Well, one of the what I like to do with a company is I like to maximize outsourcing as much as possible.
Cool.
The more you can outsource, it doesn't matter the size of the company or who you do it with or whatever. But the more you can outsource, the more you are building a team that has a vested interest in every project being successful. Because if I hire an employee that's paid by the hour, if they make a mistake that costs the company a lot of money, they still get paid for that hour. However, if I'm subcontracting to another company and things don't go well, well, one, the probability that they go well increases, but two, they know that their invoice is in jeopardy if they don't do a good job, right? So I like to outsource. It trims the fat, and in a growing company, your ability to scale up the business is vital. As the company grows, you have to grow to meet that. However, you also need to be able to contract the company when you are off peak or you're in a slower season. And almost every business has some seasonality. Every business has, even if it's a couple of months in the year, where things slow down a little bit. So your ability to scale up and scale down is very important. And so what we tell people to do is staff in-house staff to the valleys, subcontract to the peaks.
I see.
Staff to the valley, subcontract to. So, for example, if you're a growing business and you say, "Wow, I need a lot more marketing help. I need someone to do my social media. I need someone to redo my website." You hire an agency for that in the beginning, and maybe you have a marketing director who oversees it, who's full time. But once those projects are over, you don't need all that marketing horsepower, so they go away, and you don't have to carry the overhead. So that's why I'm a big fan of that.
That's great. No, I completely resonate with that statement because I use similar methodologies even in my own business, and when I work with tech founders, I recommend that strategy wholeheartedly. So thanks a lot for confirming that. Now we are almost running out of time. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience in terms of how they can grow in their careers?
Yeah. So going back to the pricing strategy, your pricing is one of the top ways that you communicate with your clientele. That's how, when you set your pricing, you are telling the marketplace who you are, and more importantly, you're telling the buyer who they are. So it's very important that you get your pricing right, and you can't get your pricing right unless you really know your client. So it forces you to do your ideal client profile and then set your pricing accordingly, and charging the maximum amount that your clientele is willing to pay. Don't negotiate against yourself. Price what you're worth, price what the value of the product or service is worth, and the people who are passionate about what you do, meaning your customers that are passionate about you, are willing to pay for it. Great. They gladly pay for it as long as you keep delivering the high quality that you're doing.
Yeah, very well said. Well, thank you so much for this great interview, Carl. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us a little bit about your company and how people can reach out?
Sure. Well, you can find out more about me by going to carlgould.com. And as a gift to your listeners, in the Contact Us section, put in the subject line business analysis, and we'll give any one of your listeners who do that up to 2 hours of what we call the business analysis. And it is a 2-hour growth workshop, and show them where in their business they can really improve.
That's awesome. Very generous of you. Thank you so much. So everyone listening or viewing, please do go check it out and take advantage of this opportunity. Well, thanks a lot, Carl. There's a lot to learn from you, and I hope we can have another conversation with you in coming weeks.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks. And that's all for now. Until next time. And if you're an existing or an aspiring tech entrepreneur, then I invite you to check out my new online workshop, Bootstrapping Your Tech Startup Dreams. Go to bootstraptechstartup.com and sign up for free. I want to make sure that more successful and sound decisions are made every day in your tech projects. Let's start finding solutions to your problems. So go to bootstraptechstartup.com, and I look forward to helping you with your tech projects. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.